It's now 8:30. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would there be a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I'll second that. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. At this time, please join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any public comments at this time? Oh, yes, Jen.
Good morning. I'm Jan Norris from just over the border of Montgomery County. The Summit Carbon Pipeline is proposed to go in behind our house between two of our farms, and I've spent the last year learning all I can about them. Summit is here this morning to give you an update on their progress. If, like in Montgomery County a couple weeks ago, they are likely to tell you they have more than 50% of the easements needed and do not want to use eminent domain. They are likely to say they plan to move forward with construction in 2023. They want you to think safety is their big concern and they will have plenty of staff to monitor it. They might even say you don't have to worry about defining setbacks because they have negotiated with landowners. They will tell you the pipe diameter has enlarged since they first talked to you, and they may reassure you that landowners need not worry about future damages because they will be cared for in perpetuity. All these things are statements you want to hear, and it is what landowners want to hear also. However, their actions do not always follow their statements. Summit may have more than 50% of the easements needed, but that doesn't mean landowners want this. The Iowa Utilities Board has stated there are still too many parcels without voluntary easements to move forward with a public hearing. The upcoming scheduling hearing may shed some light on the timetable ahead. Without a public hearing on the books, construction in 2023 is looking completely unlikely. In fact, some speculate that the public hearing may not even take place until next fall. They may not want to use eminent domain, but they will not have a project without it. Too many landowners are saying no, not at any price. But some who said no in the beginning have fallen victim to the almighty dollar. As with most boondoggles, money is no object. Summit and their investors seem to have mountains of dollars to bribe landowners into signing, amounts that are too big to ignore. They want you to think safety is their big concern. However, Summit is making a case on December 13th that the Iowa Utilities Board shouldn't even be able to consider safety issues when deciding whether to grant this hazardous permit. They have objected to filing plume modeling, risk assessments, consequence analysis, and emergency response plans. They want to claim state and local governments cannot preempt federal safety and are using counties to stop them from setting local ordinances. They are suing the counties to stop them from setting local ordinances. However, in a letter to TransCanada, PHMSA, the regulatory agency, expressly approved of local zoning efforts over pipelines. They say you may not have to worry about defining setbacks because they have been negotiated with landowners. Pull the public information easements. What does it say? If it's not in writing, what recourse does the landowner have when they put it where they want it, not where it was negotiated? And what about neighbors who are too close but not on the landowner list, like my neighbors, the Johnsons, whose living room window is supposed to be 288 feet from the pipeline, but they don't own the farm next to their house, so have no opportunity to negotiate a setback. They will tell you the pipe diameter has been enlarged since they first talked to you for increased capacity. Already, the pipe is increased to 8 inches to accommodate adding more plants. Will these be local facilities, or are they looking to add states south of us? Again, look at the easement. Do they limit the size, or does it say it could be as large as 24 inches? They will reassure you that landowners need not worry about future damages because they will be taken care of forever. Maybe that is their intention. However, who will fulfill that promise once the pipeline is sold? Ask the folks on the Dakota Access Pipeline. Their 800 number has changed many times, and now after 5 years, no one answers. There are so many concerns when it comes to CO2 pipelines. Most of these are out of your control. Your concern as a supervisor is to protect the county and its residents from financial impact and physical harm. You have filed an official objection against the use of eminent domain for a for-profit private company and asked the Iowa Utilities Board to reject Summit's petition without voluntary easements in place with every landowner. Now you should pursue a county ordinance to establish present and future land use and zoning and to seek to limit the inconvenience or undue injury that may result to property owners. Thank you for wanting what is best for Page County. I'm sure you will have many questions to ask this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Jan. Anyone else? JD?
Good morning, JD King, Page County Engineer. This went out yesterday afternoon, and I just skimmed over the letter from Mr. Wagner. The blades are out. Got a couple of blades ditching up in Valley Township. Worked with a landowner, I mentioned that briefly last week. Got 3 trucks hauling rock, working on the pipe on N Avenue. They put up some snow fence last week. They're putting up more this week. And then doing some tidying up of things, and we were short some folks yesterday, still doing the holiday thing. And so later this week we should have enough people to continue our mowing on the gravels. Right now we're mowing in northwest of Florinda. And we're scheduling some interviews for labor driver. Work in the shop is normal. Got a couple tandems in Omaha. One could be back this week. The radio, we're checking on the radio. Repeater that goes out in the tower there by Cherokee Ridge should be back this week. And we upgraded our light fixtures in the parts room there at the shop. The mix building is full of mix, salt sand mix, and our calcium tanks. Then we top dress our mix are also full. We have still a 50-ton salt water to come in. Our bridge projects are the main. Well, we're working on the Essex Bridge. The clearing is complete. They're burning the brush pile there, and they're hauling dirt from east to west. That'll go on for several weeks. The detours are ready to put up. The signs are out there, just turned 90 degrees when the road is closed. And once again, the road is open at Essex until the 2nd of January, when they'll start the demolition. So if ag producers have grain or other things to move on 150th Street there northwest of Essex, they should do that before January. The utilities are moving down on the 280th Street Bridge. The Windstream was plowing in new line and putting their line on the poles they set by the creek. The United Electric folks are coming in today just to reset their power poles. So that'll be ready on the 5th of December, which is next week. So they'll come in and close that tentatively on the 5th, next Monday. Continue to work on project development for bridges in the future. We have a safety meeting at the shop this afternoon. Cold weather, trips and falls. And on this Friday, there's a Hungry Canyon meeting up in Harbor.
Where's the T-34 and the W-65 bridge at?
The T-34 bridge is on 190th Street, just west of that,
Okay,
Johnson
okay,
winery thing. Down there, east and the Audis.
okay,
And W-65 is, C Avenue. South of 290th.
Okay.
Between 290th and 300. Down there, Craig Smith owns some ground to the south.
Okay. Okay.
Anything else for me?
Is there a possibility that you can talk to your blade operator down in that neck of the woods and then
Right.
let them know, maybe Keith would call and let him know when to schedule
I'm
this?
not sure which one of the classes he's talking about here, but we've certainly,
Yeah,
all the roads I know down there have been,
it's one of the level C's that's been closed. It's one of the ones that's been closed, he said. So
the level C.
yeah, it's a level
Yeah.
C.
That's what he's saying.
He said he's requested blading and
Well, there's the east, west one and the north, south one.
yeah, I don't know.
Doesn't indicate.
No, it doesn't say. It's
And
one.
This is also one of the roads that we did the bridge on south of Clements, we did that repair. So that's open to traffic again.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be closed anymore if it's open.
The bridge is now open. Anyway, we'll
Yes.
reach out, we'll talk to Keith.
Okay, find out and get that on the schedule. Thank you. That'd be
Yep.
wonderful.
With regard to your radios, JD, the question I have now that we had approved through ARPA funds, an upgraded console. It's above my skill set to totally understand it. However, it's my understanding that this new console will give us more ability to have additional channel groups or talk groups. I'm wondering if you having a conversation with the sheriff about the possibility of eliminating this analog system that you're using. It's been expensive to maintain and,
It's a digital radio, everything's digital now.
pardon me,
It's a digital.
but you're still using electronic engineering, repeaters that could potentially be taken out of the mix and get on the ISIC system that law enforcement is. If we could create with this new console a talk group, it would, I think, simplify things, perhaps, but again, if you talk to Lyle.
I'll talk to Lyle.
Jacob, anything?
About that truck, does it work again?
Which
The
one?
new truck that they were working on,
It's at home.
it's up there.
Thank you.
Don't have anything else.
Thanks, JD. Thanks for your report. And if you want to update us after you figured out that road, maybe let us know that's taken care of. That'd be great. Thank you. Okay, next up, I think we're about a minute ahead, but by the time, Kaylee, if you want to get up and introduce yourself and give us an update on what is happening out there with Summit Carbon Solutions, that would be fine.
Alrighty. I do have just a few things to pass out to you guys.
Okay. Sure.
There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks. I can pass one here
Oh,
to
great.
Christie. Thanks. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so I'll just start by introducing myself. My name is Kaylee Langrell. I'm from Turnkey Logistics. We represent Summit Carbon Solutions, doing mainly the non-environmental permitting, so road crossings, driveway permits, stuff like that. My primary job, however, is going around to county boards, giving informational presentations and answering questions, to the best of my ability. If I don't have the answer to a question, I can always bring a project manager in with me, a construction manager, or, email you with that answer later on. So I know last time we were here, I believe it was in June, and Rob Latimer and Riley Gibson were here doing the presentation. And they kind of talked about, the importance of the project. They went over the tax numbers and gave you guys kind of an update. So today, what I plan to do is give you guys an update, and then we'll go over a couple of these handouts. Sorry if I'm talking loud. Y'all can tell me to back up if I need to. But we'll kind of focus on this frequently asked questions page, because that's really, we've gone through all of the project counties at this point and done presentations. So we kind of compiled the most commonly asked questions and put them on this page. So we'll go over that. But just starting with a brief update, as far as construction, as Ms. Norris said, we will be starting in summer of 2023. That is the expected start date of construction. It would be late summer, so August, September range. And then as far as land acquisition, I took a look yesterday, and I believe the last time we were here in Page County in June, we were at about 22% of easement miles acquired. And as of yesterday, we're at 55.17% of easement miles acquired, and that is for Page County. And then as far as state acquisition, we're at about 57%. And we also hit our project milestone of over 50 for project wide, 50%. So we're really happy with that. Things are going better than expected. I think we are exceeding our goals. So we do have hopes for that 100% voluntary acquisition. So I'll move on to permitting. So as far as permitting, that's also my job. I am the permitting coordinator for Page County. So I did actually submit our road crossing permits to JD. I believe it was last Monday. So the holidays and everything, I know a lot's been going on, but those have been submitted. So you guys should be hearing about those. And then let's see, we can kind of touch on some of our partnerships. Investors, I don't know if Ron went over that last time. So on this Iowa page here, this kind of gives a lot of information, but our partnerships are listed right here. So we have 32 ethanol plants across 5 states, Summit Carbon Solutions, 5 states being Iowa, Nebraska, Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota. And then we have some of our larger investors listed up here as well. Another thing that's listed on this Iowa handout is under this heading, Summit Carbon Solutions, pipelines overbuilt for safety. We have some of the specific PHMSA codes. So if you guys want to look those up, if you're curious, you can look them up by the code and kind of see what we're required to do. And then it also says how we're going above and beyond these codes. Moving on to this frequently asked questions page, just going to touch on the safety. Again, as Ms. Norris said, we are very concerned with safety. We've seen that, through my time going to a bunch of different counties, giving these presentations. That's the #1 thing that came up. So we want to make sure that the people in the county know, the supervisors in the counties know that we are concerned about safety, and we're regulated, very highly regulated. So just touching on some of these points, PHMSA does require that we X-ray 10% of the wells on our project. Summit Carbon Solutions has made the commitment to X-ray 100% of the wells on this project line. Another thing, the pipeline will be hydrostatically tested. So this is something that we're regulated to do as well. That requires filling the line up with water, 125% or more of its max operating pressure. And this will be done for 4 to 8 hours, depending on the pipe size and where it's located. So, and that's all done before it's put in the ground. And then the block valves, we can kind of talk about that. If you take a look at your map here, this one is not showing a block valve in the county, but I know that we do have one. This one right here, I'm not sure, this map, I'm not sure if this is correct, I'm sorry. Because the last time I was, we did have a block valve here.
What, around 140th Street?
Yes, correct. Maybe it's slightly above that. And I can get you that one. Because we have 2 versions of our maps on there right now. So that could be my mistake. But I will email that to you guys and double check that that's correct. So basically the way that the block valves work is if there's any kind of temperature change, pressure change down the line, the valves on either side of that change would automatically shut. And then we would also have our full-time staff in Ames monitoring the line as well, 24/7. And they would have access to those lines. You can also manually turn on and off the valves. They work typically just like any other block valve that you would see on like a natural gas line or something like that. They're just, I believe they're a bit smaller because the line is smaller. And then we will also hire people to work, live and work locally across the project line. This is something else we're regulated to do, just so that they're in at a close distance. If there is an issue, they can respond. They will also do regular maintenance on the line as well. And then lastly, I'll kind of talk a little bit about Rod Dillman. He is our Director of Regulatory Compliance. So his job right now, well, really his job is to make sure that we're following everything that we're regulated to do as far as safety goes. He has about 30+ years of emergency management experience. So he's been hired right now. He is reaching out to all the emergency managers in all the counties to kind of inform them about the project, you know, ask them like, is there anything that you would need once, or that you can foresee that you would need once this project is completed, and let them know that the trainings will be happening in the future. So there will be trainings with our staff and the county emergency response, you know, ahead of time. So if there is any kind of problem with the line, like any kind of leak or anything like that, these people would know each other. They will have worked with each other before, and this will not be something that's chaotic and new, you know. So that's just some of the things we're doing. If you guys have any specific questions, we can go over those. I don't want to keep talking. I feel like this is better with question and answer. So.
One of the questions that I had relating to discussion last week that we had in here, why is the line tested above ground instead of in the ground? Why do you hydrostatically check it above?
So that is done, you know, right before they lay it in the ground, I believe. So they'll do that just to make sure before they put it in the ground that everything is correct, that there's no issues. And then while it's outside of the ground, if there is an issue, obviously they would repair it before they put it in the ground. Once it's put in the ground, we'll still do a similar kind of testing. It will be, I don't know the engineering term or really smart term for it, but a pig will be put through the line to check for any kind of issues so that we could correct those before there is a leak, you know. So that would not, the pig would take the place of the hydrostatic test for after that.
And what type of pipeline, just so I'm clear in my head, what kind of a pipeline is it? Is it a steel, copper, and what exactly material is it made out of?
It is a high carbon steel.
High carbon steel. Okay.
Yeah, says this requirement by FSMA requires a 50-foot setback from dwellings. It says you have designed a pipeline that far exceeds the minimum setback. What does that mean? How far?
Well, it varies from place to place. That's why we didn't put a specific number on that. But I would say, I know there's none less than 100 feet. But, you know, we're just putting that point in there that then does require 50 foot, and it will be beyond that. And as she said, also, a lot of those are negotiated with landowners. And we did, you know, if you look at an overall project map, you can kind of tell that the line runs. It's not like a typical pipeline. It doesn't run, if you've seen Navigator's map, it kind of runs from point A to point B as, you know, quickly as you can get there. But the way Summit Carbon Solutions did it, and this is part of us being an ag-based company, is they tried to stay as close to the property line as possible. So we weren't just cutting straight through people's fields. So stay as close to the property line as possible. And then once these negotiations start, if the landowner wants to move it, we can do that.
But they're super close to the property line, and like she's saying, if somebody has a house, a lot of farm houses are built on the corner of a farm right next to somebody else. So I get to not want to go through the field of that guy, but like the next guy over might be not wanting it to be pretty darn close to the pipeline.
Yeah, and that's, you know, like I said, that it is a starting point. You have to start somewhere, you know, with your project line. But as we've made over 2,000 route changes, just based off of landowner wishes, you know, moving it through properties. So we are willing to work with people, and you know, that's our hope, is that we can
Has Summit sued any counties for trying to make their own ordinance?
There are some lawsuits. You can probably imagine I'm not allowed to talk about that. They don't keep me in the loop on that.
They have sued counties over making an ordinance.
Yes. That is very recent.
Well, I guess,
Oh, go ahead.
no, we've expressed our concern about the use of eminent domain as a public body. And, I think we feel pretty strongly about that. The reality is the Iowa Utilities Board ultimately will make that decision. That's above our pay grade. And, it'd be our hope that, as a responsible business venture, you would work very hard to keep that number at a minimum if it's allowed by the Iowa Utilities Board.
Yeah, that is our hope. Our land agents are going to be working hard. People know at this point that we had to file our exhibit H's, but we're still working with people. That wasn't I feel like when that first happened, people were thinking we were trying to use eminent domain. That is not the case. That's a process that is required by the IUB. Our land agents are still working with people, and once those easements are signed, once the negotiation is complete, those exhibit H's are withdrawn. And we're going to continue to work with people, up to the point that we no longer can. And our hope would be, eminent domain is a necessary evil, unfortunately.
Do you think that's for profit? Do you think it's a necessary evil for a for-profit venture? Because I don't at all.
Well,
For-profit.
for a project this size, I would say, but our hope is that the only time we would have to use eminent domain is when there's some kind of title issue. So if there's a title issue, and we don't know who has the legal claim to the land, we could have every single person that could possibly have claim to that land sign an easement, and it's not valid. So that's when we would have to use eminent domain, and that's why it's necessary. We don't want to use it just because we can't come to an agreement with people.
Why are we not using the right of way of the highway?
That is, man, I wish I could probably forward you the email, but it's not allowed. Federal or state body regulates that.
Okay.
I can't remember if it's IUB or
I'm just curious on that.
Yeah.
Trying to think if I had another question that I was thinking about. Oh, and did you get everything answered on the Johnson Run drainage ditch that is both on Page and Fremont County side, but it's on the Fremont County side that affects you guys?
Not yet. I brought my laptop today so I can pull up our map and.
Do you work with, because JD's not in charge of it and he is and he isn't, but Fremont County owns that side of the ditch. Of the drainage ditch. Do you work with Fremont County?
One of my colleagues does, and I know that he is setting up a meeting with them.
Okay. Because that would be, we need to make sure that it would be handled through Fremont County, I would guess, since it's in their land area.
Okay.
I believe it runs up through Fremont. What did it say in the map, all the way up to Fort crosses into Page and runs up to about 160th Street. Well, was about just south of 160th.
Okay.
So
yeah, we'll look at that, and I know that he is in contact with them and trying to. I know the supervisors handle that. Is that correct?
yes,
Yeah.
that is correct. Yeah.
You've applied for a road permit. How do we ensure that there were some other roads that had phone lines, internet stuff buried in that really got screwed up this year? How do we ensure the roads are not going to be
So we
hurt,
that the roads are not.
not be put back right? 'Cause
Okay.
digging pipelines across roads makes.
Yes, so one of the things that Turnkey is doing that we're supplying to Summit Carbon Solutions, we have Turn 360 is what we call it. So it's basically like Google Street View. So we have driven the cars with a little camera on top through all of the roads that we're going to cross, and you'll be able to see a before and after picture. And that's anything you can get on Google Maps right now, go to that place, look. So we'll do that before and after. So it's indisputable if there has been any.
Anytime you do cross the road, few months or after winter, it'll settle again. You'll settle, you take a trench across the road or anywhere. Is it a one-time pass or what is the,
As far as construction,
yeah, well, once you come back and fix it, it'll settle and then it'll have to be done again, basically.
that is,
So
you
you have
know,
a one-time fix, who regulates what makes you come back and fix it? The wheel isn't on us, whatever you messed up.
that's a good question. I know that we're committed to coming back and fixing those damages, like I said, because it's gonna be there for everyone to see. But as far as who requires us to do that,
So that'd be a good place for an ordinance or something like that to make sure, or a road use agreement or something to make sure it's returned to pre-construction quality and good.
yeah, we want to make sure that's done. And we're trying our best to make sure that we have that, footage for you guys and you can see it. And obviously, if JD goes out and sees there's an issue with the road, he calls us up and says, hey, this is because your pipeline, I know you came out here once and fixed it, but you didn't do it right. You need to come out and do it again. We would definitely be responsible for that.
My experience, I'd like to have that in writing. I'd like to have that in writing. It seems like it's on the front end of the sales, it's always like,
Yeah,
gonna fix her all anything, and then when it comes time to fix it, well, we did our best.
yeah, I get it. The proof is in the pudding,
So
so.
we need to have that in writing, I think.
Yeah, I definitely understand. I'm not sure. I know most of the roads are gonna be bored. I don't know if we have any open cuts in this county. So if you're worried about open cuts, I don't think that's an issue. I think we're leaning more towards boring everything, even if we're allowed.
What happens if Summit Carbon Solutions sells to another company or it changes hands? What about the liability and the continuation of support and all that? How does that work?
Everything in the easement stays the same. So it has to be used for CO2. There's a liability. If you take a look at the frequently asked questions, liability is something that also came up. So I took the direct language from the blank easement and put it in here. So that's in here. And then also what happens if the easement is sold to another entity? That language is also in this. And of course, the easement that we start out with, it's a starting point. So there are amendments that people can add if they don't feel like that liability clause is specific enough. They can add more specific language to it. And that goes for anything in the easement. So.
I guess I know that for the easements, but what about and does that consider all easements with the county as far as crossing through the road underneath the road? That would be the same.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
Well, just the other FAQ about landowner's liability if they damage the pipe, if it's on their ground. I find that interesting too.
Yeah, so the only time the landowner would be liable is in the case of gross negligence, which would be, I always use the example of if you go out there, dig it up and take an axe to it. Obviously, we're not going to take that liability, because that was malicious. So, but anything else, like if they're going about their day, a lot of people they're worried about their combines, like if there's mud or something sinking too low, damaging it, that would be on us because that's just them. Obviously, at that point, it's not low enough or, that would be our issue.
Okay.
So we would take that responsibility.
So we heard in our public comment that the hearing in 2 weeks will keep this project from moving forward. From Summit's point of view, what's your prediction on what may or may not happen on the 13th?
I don't want to make a prediction, but I've heard, I was in Crawford County last week and someone asked, why are you guys held up at the IP? What's the holdup? And I wasn't really sure. There's not a holdup. So this is just it's a normal hearing to get the scheduling underway. Our hope is that our IUP permit would be approved by June of next year. So we're not really in a rush. I mean, there's plenty of time and the scheduling hearing is in December. So I don't think there's any issue there.
Because initially I thought the hearing was, the big hearing was in March. Is that also still on the calendar?
I'm not sure. What I know about the one that's in December is that would decide what's next.
Okay.
Is what I believe.
So by that hearing, you plan to have your 100% compliance.
By the December hearing?
No, by the June. before you go for this permit.
We would hope. Yep, and I'll just say, we've been doing acquisitions since February. It's been less than a year. We're already at 55%. A lot of our counties, like I said, Crawford County I was in last week, we're at 80. So we're happy with the progress. We're hopeful because things start off slow, but they really progress. So.
Well, I don't have any other questions. I just would encourage everybody who examines this to try to look at the very big picture. The support of agriculture, our key driver of our economy. I know that talking with folks from Green Plains, they're very, very much wanting this to open some markets on both coasts. And, that would continue to support our agricultural economic model. But I know eminent domain is an ugly, ugly thing.
It is.
It's too bad that the coasts are dictating to us what goes in our fuel. California is basically writing rules for us to follow here to try to sell our ethanol. And that's very unfortunate. Carbon dioxide a long ways away to satisfy California and their beliefs.
Well, it's not, it's just trying to open up markets. We do things to sell pigs to China that we probably would not like.
How much money of this is federal?
None at this point.
What is the tax? What
The
is the
45.
incentive? What is the incentive? How does the incentive come?
So our business model, as far as that goes, we are not requiring ethanol plants to pay anything upfront. So all of the money that we raise, through investments, that would go to building this project. Once the project is built, and these new markets are opened up, we would split that credit that they're going to get for lowering their carbon intensity score. So that's how we would make that the money in the long term. Then there's also the 45Q. That is very confusing to me. I'm not 100% sure of all the details on that, but I think there is like a limit to the amount of years you can draw from the 45Q. I think it's like 12 years or something like that.
That's how it's incentivized.
Yeah, so it's kind of big risk, big reward. But if it doesn't go through, good.
Anything else?
So you're going to provide us an updated map with the closure valves?
Yes, I'm going. Do you guys have your emails on the website?
Yeah, you've been sending, I think, to us.
Okay.
It goes to the supervisor.
Yes.
Yeah, just in that. Yeah. And whenever you've met, your colleague has met with Fremont County, kind of update us on what's going on out there in Massachusetts. So, okay.
Yep. I will do that.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, next item up is to discuss approve architectural fees for the canopies. And Melissa, I think you've got a report for that for us of the plan.
Good morning. Last week we walked through some of the window items and discussed the handicap entrance, and I think at different times we've discussed that probably needs to be the concrete needs to be redone, and then as well a covering on that. So after talking to James about that, he suggested that we have the architectural firm assist with that, just so then everything looks correct and goes with the building. And two, there's actually damage on the men's restroom canopy already, and so that needs to be replaced too. And so just to make sure that everything looks and then makes the building still look within the historical look as well. So it would just be the standard fees that they charge for to do those, which you guys already had when they did the windows as well. So it would just be to add that on.
I don't remember what their standard fees were. They had a lot better fee than anybody else.
Yeah. I
Was it
can't remember
5%?
either. It was,
5 or 7, I don't recall either without
the
pulling.
nice thing is it'll be a fairly simple.
Yeah, and it'll just be by the hour, so,
Yeah.
and, I believe there's different rates depending on
The
if it's
nice thing, it'll put it all together, working with fine, where it's all done together. That would be the one real big.
This is for the
plus.
concrete or just the canopy?
This would just be for the canopy portion, and they prefer that we wait to do the concrete, which I know Jean is working on getting some estimates on, or some bids on that as well. But with that too, then it would be to replace that, the handicap entrance, which really does need, I think anybody who has any sort of injury at any point in time that needs to use that, there's just been issues with that. And then as well, if we put like a canopy or something over that, we've had issues with water and ice, specifically on that part of it, which has made it slick and hard for anybody that's needed that to use. So it would address both those issues at the same time. But then also too, I think Jean was going to talk to the different concrete companies and see too if they could provide some bids as well on some of the sidewalks too, just because some of those are not in great shape either. So then, but James has asked us to wait and do the concrete after, just because he said with bringing the lifts and everything, he would hate to see us pour new concrete and then potentially them damage it when they're doing the windows. So. But this would just be to get this started, so then we can move forward with the rest of the projects.
Now, would James work with the awning people then to
Yes,
coordinate that?
yeah. So this would bring in that architectural firm that we've been using, so she would just incorporate it into the project. The window, it would be a separate project, but it would be with the windows project and with that same firm. So which we've had, I think, a really good working relationship. So we met last week and went over some things, and they've been a really good firm to work with.
I'm sure it won't be much. I just want to make sure something doesn't balloon. We don't know where it's going. So we don't have it. I don't think it will.
Right.
It's like, how do we just open in something?
I don't know that there's a
way.
cap or anything, but I do feel like they've been pretty above board on everything, and we haven't had any issues where we felt like they have.
Not delivered what they promised.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I think I saw Kelsey and James were here. That was.
Yeah.
They met with you.
And Kelsey's been really good to work with, and I think it would just be nice too, and it would also help preserve the historical look of our building. And we do have a lot of people that really appreciate the appearance of our building. So she would make sure then that that's all taken care of too. So it's not.
Well, the appearance and then not only architecturally, but from an engineering standpoint, because the
Correct.
last thing you want is put a canopy up there, spend the money and still have nice water down below.
Right.
Because that's where our liability really lies.
Has anybody asked her what she guessed it might be? What kind of project?
She
How much?
did not provide that. She just said that they would follow their standard billing rates. So.
Well, sure shouldn't take real long, but some of these architect plans can get really unbelievable. I don't think it will, but
Right. And then the thought would be to replace all three of them, not just one, so that they all look, which the men's restroom canopy already has. It looks like some ice or something fell at some point and hit that and damaged it. So it needs, if we're doing it, it makes sense to do it all so it looks nice and finished all at the same time.
Any other questions?
And tuck pointing is going good, and they should be done here in the next few weeks.
Good.
So, yeah, everything's went well. He has fixed a few extra things that they found, but nothing excessive.
So do we anticipate that coming in under the quote budget? There's no.
He hasn't indicated that that will change, so. But I know he said that just when they were, up high and found some things that they just went ahead and.
So those pieces that fell at one point, have those been replaced? I haven't looked. Or repaired?
That would be with a clock tower, so that wouldn't be.
No, not those, not the metal
Oh.
pieces, like those cornices, like down in our old boardroom.
Yes.
Block.
Yeah, they have, they did a lot of work on those, so they have, I don't know what the proper term is, but they have went in and I know they worked on some of that and well, I think they've already repainted some of it too, so.
Could just go look instead of ask.
Yeah, no, you're fine. But yeah, because I had visited with him about that and told him that, we'd had some issues with some of those falling before, so I know when they worked on those, they made sure that they were secure, so.
Well, I wish we had a number on a request by Farnsworth, but the day that Jerry came and presented the window project, we went through the bid process. He was the most genuine, and the experience with Kelsey has been not very exemplary. I wouldn't have a problem making that motion that we go ahead and approve the architectural fees. I trust him. He'll do a good job.
We think it's gonna be $1,000 or $5,000 or 500, we have no idea.
Well, if it was, I'm trying to think, I don't know if I can find that email.
In a few hours, I don't remember what they charged now.
It should
Can pull it.
be very limited.
But I don't think you want any of us designing it, so if we need to go through a bid process to, I don't know that will save anything. I mean, we've had a good relationship with them, they treated us fairly.
I agree, I like him, met him up there, give a good bid. I just wonder, if they said we're estimating 5 hours, $500 an hour, I just something on that.
Yeah. Well, we could ask her for that before we approve it, just, if you prefer.
Just like.
What's for that? Is it better? Is that right?
Pardon me?
I was gonna
Yeah,
pull
yeah, Kelsey.
for what she sent for fees.
That way you could, potentially put a cap on what you're gonna spend. I don't have a problem with that. But I do think that they've done great work and I think they'd be fair with.
So she said that it'll fall under the architect heading. And that would just depend on the project. Yeah, and she said that they could get us, but basically it looks like on here, I mean, it kind of just fees out. It looks like their billing rates go from 80 to a principal is 225, which she would only pull the principal in at the end too.
So if you had 5 hours, 4 hours of 80 and one of 225, you'd be at $525.
And she said that they will provide a not to exceed.
Well, maybe if they're not gonna pour concrete this week anyway, if she just email her and just say, what's kind of just a parameter.
Okay,
and
yep, I can do
maybe
that.
It's probably fine. They were very reasonable even on their mileage, everything.
Right.
Extremely reasonable, but just to throw it on there, so there's a number with this on the agenda, we can just approve that.
Yeah, and I think initially they just wanted to make sure you were even interested in this, so I can then definitely reach out to her then and see if we could get a not to exceed proposal.
Yeah.
But I just don't think she wanted to put a whole proposal together.
Yeah,
This
if
was
we
even-
wanted
That can be pretty simple. It doesn't need to be
Yeah.
big. It's just put the kind
But
of-
having some expertise to make sure we don't get water problems. Definitely will.
Yeah, and there's been several people that use wheelchairs or have been hurt to use that ramp, say it has issues,
And it's bad.
so it needs addressed.
Yeah, and this would just be the architectural part. This would not be then, she said that then they could provide construction
For the concrete ramp.
documents. So,
It can be bid out.
yes,
Well, maybe have a twofold situation. Maybe we just have them go ahead and do that too while they're doing it.
right.
To put the bid specs together.
So whenever we do it, it's ready to, if they're working on that whole area anyway.
Right.
It makes sense. Because.
Well, because once we get them, we're gonna have to vet it out anyway, so.
Right. But to have those bid specs done, so that there's no surprises, bidding the same thing.
And if they're tacking it on to the end of this big project, it'd be a lot better to get somebody in here just to do that.
Right, agree.
So maybe put together some concrete and the awnings or whatever. Yeah.
Okay, so you want to just move to table this until next week? Hopefully we'll have all that.
Yeah.
Okay, and then so just so I make sure you want a proposal with a total amount, basically like a cap on it. But then also too, you want them to include in there a construct, because the construction portion would be a separate fee.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
Yeah, and then we could accept one or both or neither at that
Yeah.
point.
okay,
That's good.
okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa.
All right.
Next item up is to discuss approve signing the public health memorandum of understanding regarding the Iowa opiate allocation. We had had quite a bit of discussion in the past about this, and to accept the dollars coming in, all we need is the actual approval of the actual signature of the chairman and the supervisors, just to make it legal in their determination from public health to the county. You've got a copy of the memorandum on your desk. I don't think there's anything that this is pretty standard for all the counties in Iowa.
No, I've read through it. Carl produced it, the Board of Health has looked at it.
Yeah,
Sure, I have. Maybe I do it here somewhere. Is that something that's out here
I
today?
put it on your desk
Okay, I'll try to go.
somewhere there.
File.
Yeah, it was there. It's about a 6-page, 5-page, 4-page document. Nope. Yeah, 4-page.
What's it look like?
Yes.
What do I have?
Yeah, I put it over there. You didn't have mine here. Yeah,
And it came in our email
yeah,
here a week or 2
yeah,
days ago.
yeah. He
Richard
sent
sent
it.
it.
Yeah, Richard sent it. And so all I need is a motion to approve to make it legal with their board.
Him to allocate the money,
Yeah,
him to spend it,
yeah.
be responsible for it.
Which is what we had approved
Right.
originally, so it's just really the
A
signature,
formality.
the formality to make sure everybody knows.
And on that topic, I was showing Richard, we've got a check in the mail today for $16,406.
For the funds, yeah, super.
Okay, I'm all right with that.
Okay. Motion to approve,
So moved.
I'll second that.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
And do you need this copy back to sign? or do you
I
have it?
think that what I sent you, was that okay?
Yes.
Okay, so we're good. I signed that, but we'd already done it by phone because I'd signed it and sent it to him to have, so it'll be legal whenever we voted on it today. So he should be good. Any updates or questions that you want to share about the opiates?
So I think in the initial process of starting an opiate task force, we're
Uh-huh.
going to be really focused on just reducing the opiates being used, the overdose and the potential death, and going to be doing a lot of prevention work around it. And I also contacted 6 individuals that I'm hoping to get to sit on this task force, with organizations and agencies within Page County that see a lot of people, provides a lot of service to people, and those type of things like that. So it's just really kind of moving that needle and keeping this going for the next, course of the 18 years at least. So it's going to be a really good thing for the county to be able to make some headway.
Super. Well,
Thank you.
thank you for your involvement. Thank you for taking care of it. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask.
Right.
So, very good project. Okay. Board communication.
I attended Mental Health Disability Service Board meeting yesterday in Oakland. Pretty busy agenda. We approved the 20-some page, 29 page. Last year's report was 4 pages longer to the DHS about activities, budget. Of course, a lot of information with the change in the last year from county levies to DHS and state funding. But our board will now, our business for this year is done. Won't meet again until January. That was the big point. They also, let's see, we had a full report out on, children's services, children's mental health and behavioral services that are dictated by the law that went into effect here a year ago, July. And we're seeing not only services ramping up, but certainly usage ramping up. And I think overall it's gonna have a positive impact to try to address some of these problems much earlier.
Jacob, anything?
I've got the landfill on Thursday and Miss Hundred Canyon's JD talked about it on Friday. What I have to do, I didn't have anything last week, I went to it.
I had Wabansi Mental Health last week. We had the audit report presented to us for the year previous, and it was a very good, very successful year. Part of that was how the had been restructured, not only by management, by some of the programs they offered to make things more efficient. Had a very, very positive year financially. Part of that has been helped, of course, by ARPA funds or whatever they're called for those groups, but do a lot of work on the buildings, get things up to speed and up to date. And Shenandoah, Red Oak, and Brenda, so that's helped dramatically. So very positive meeting. Okay. Approved minutes.
So moved.
Reading over these here, let's
Oh,
see.
sorry.
All right, I'll second that.
Okay. Motion and a second to approve minutes. All those in favor? Aye. Jacob?
Yes, I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay,
Second.
so moved and seconded and approved. Thanks.